Hey everybody, it's Katie from Bobby Hair Studio, and today I'm going to show you how I do a soft feminine shag haircut. My client's starting with a one length cut with some curtain bangs, and we end up with a very soft shag, something in the more comfortable area for a starter shag with some heavy bangs that can be versatile, being open or closed. And this is the overall look. So if you want to see how to do this, stick around. So now that we've washed her hair, I'm going to part her hair into three sections. And what I'm doing is I'm parting down the center of her hair, and I'm using a harsh angle from the apex of her head down towards the ear so that we create some more heaviness in the front and so that the back section is a little bit smaller. Sometimes I'll go straight directly up from the ear, but that would be for a different cut. For a shag, I like to go from the apex so that these kind of soft, short layers that are going to be there can go front or back. Then what I'm going to be doing is testing out where my first section is going to be. This is very heavy hair and she wants to show a lot of her natural texture, so a shag is going to be perfect for her to either air style or heat style. So what I'm doing is I'm seeing how long it is, and then I'm taking the shortest layer. So basically this hasn't been cut yet. I'm about to create a little guideline for myself with this little piece, and just to see exactly where I want these kind of shorter layers to sit. They are going to come up another inch from there, and that's why I always kind of want to start with my layering a little longer than I intend. And of course, as you do see right now, I am using a butterfly razor. So I think it's called a butterfly razor. Anyways, I am using a razor blade for a shag cut, and I like to do this because it gives really soft feathery ends, and because shag cuts are so layered, oftentimes when you do a layered cut and you're a new stylist, is you'll find that the layers look very choppy and blunt. I find with a razor blade they're not so much, and even though I do two cuts in this hairstyle today, I do a wet cut and a dry cut, all of my wet cutting is going to be with the razor blade. And what you see is I'm pulling at my sections to meet where the guideline is, and then I pinch in between my fingers the whole section, and then I use the edge of my thumb to hold the hair, and then I use my razor blade to kind of drag upwards and cut away that hair. So we're not cutting on any really harsh lines, but we are cutting very intense layering. So as you see, I can kind of pull up there and recreating like these little peaks and valleys in the hair, which adds that soft, really feathered cut. So that's why I really like a razor. If you've never tried one before, you should try one with a shag, because a shag is a very safe design to go for. You really want that pieciness, and that's why I really like razor blades for this type of haircut. And I just want to mention, I am so sorry that I didn't clearly place my camera far away enough or high enough so you can't really see when I lift the hair all the way up, but I'm going to try to describe it to you, is that those long base pieces at the end of her hair, she didn't want to cut her hair any shorter in its length. She just wanted to add a ton of layers. And because this is her first like big layered cut, we are going on the softer form of a shag so that she can kind of ease into it. And then in a couple months when she wants to trim it up, she can go a little heavier on the shag if she decides that she really likes that look. So I'm basically letting up to the occipital bone almost fall out of the section. And then I am blending from that guideline down to where the occipital bone piece drops out. And then from there, I'm grabbing all of the hair, bringing it all up together and making sure that all blends. Now you can't see it up that high, but I do like to bring down my hands and kind of finish the cut at a lower angle rather than keeping my hands up all the way above my head the whole time. You'll see that a little bit here. And as you can see, while I'm going, I am giving the hair very light scrunches to see how her natural texture wants to come out. You can already see those little waves coming out to play, and that's one of my favorite things to see during a shag, because you see someone's natural hair texture come through. So again, what I'll basically be doing here is dropping out what's the length of her hair up to the occipital bone and just kind of blending from the guideline, and I work my way from the center of the back of the head to each section that I have placed off on the sides. So I want to make sure the whole back is layered before I even go towards touching the sides. And I basically do this all the way around the back of the head. And what I like to do is I like to go from center, left, right, left, right, left, right, all the way until I've made it to the ears so that I'm working as symmetrically as possible. Especially when you're working with such heavy layering, you want to make sure that you're not doing one entire side and then doing the other entire side. This is a better way, in my opinion, to keep things more symmetrical for people who have a hard time with layering. And for me, for a lot of years in hairdressing, I had a hard time with figuring out my layered cuts. Now, I know I don't really do precision cutting, and I know some hairdressers might kind of come for me for this in this video, and that's totally okay. I'm not a precision cutter. I'm more of a texture cutter. I like to kind of scrunch the hair as it's, and to see its natural texture come through, and I want to see what the hair is going to do. And then I blow dry the hair, and you're going to see those really choppy layers once it's blow dried. And then once it's dry, I feather the hair out and I fan it out and I texturize into the ends and I clean up any random little hairs that might be a little longer. I do all of my little perfecting without really perfecting the hair, because I want it to be able to sit nicely the way the hair has either air dried or blow dried. And I find that sometimes with precision cutting, at least when I've been trained with it, it still ended up looking pretty choppy. I like a very soft looking layer, which is again why shags are my favorite, and razor cutting is my favorite way to start cutting the hair wet. So now I've basically skipped forward to show you guys, because it was all the same thing, back and forth, me going through the entire back, making sure things were even. And now I'm starting on the front. So she has some curtain bangs, and we like the base length that we have from starting from there. But what we want to see is we want to see her front layers disconnected from the curtain bangs, and so we want to see them start around the jawline. So she has a slight difference between her bangs and her shag. And there's, more than one way you can do this. You can do connected or not. I like to bring all the hair forward and follow that same guideline from that area that I sectioned off earlier by the ear. Bring it all forward and follow that exact same guideline that I used to cut from her jaw down with that first face framing piece. Then I start adding areas from the back slowly into here and making sure that that line still gets connected, so we don't have a big drop off between the front and then the back. Then what I like to do is take everything around the face, and because it's going to end up all kind of falling forward in the shag style, I like to lighten up the weight by kind of dragging my razor blade on the top layers of that hair and adding little bits of layers here and there. And you're also going to see me kind of cut into some little windows and create little like thinned out sections like here. You have to go very, very light with your touch doing this, because it's going to pull out a lot more than you think. But if you get used to this kind of style, you'll kind of know where you want to put these little weight decreasers in the ends of the hair, and it adds for this really soft, shaggy look. Now I'm scrunching her hair to see how it's going to look air styled, and you can see it's got a very soft transition from the front to the back of her hair. However, I am going to double check everything and make sure, because just because it air dries nice doesn't mean that when she straightens it, there's going to be everything perfect. So I do have to double check all of that. So now that I've done that, I am going to connect those layers from the back towards the front. I like to create the shape of the front before I do the layers, so I don't accidentally cut off too much while I'm layering. I'm being very, very timid with my front layers, which it doesn't look like it, but I'm clearly not cutting off as much in those front pieces as I am in the back, because there's a lot more shaping that I'm going to do in the front later on. I didn't want to bother showing you guys the other side because the camera doesn't really catch that. So now that I've done the other side, I am trying to make sure that everything is all very similar lengths up at the top. So I am taking a guideline section at the very top of her hair and kind of pulling a little bit from either side of the parting and lifting up to make sure there's no random long pieces or short pieces that need to be blended. And this is a very thin section here. You can see right through it. And again, oh man, I really wish the camera caught this. I'm taking that razor and I'm cutting teeny tiny little windows about 1 inch from the ends of the hair to create a little bit more of that lightness and softness. And then I'm doing the same thing with a slightly deeper section on either side of the parting, so that underneath that parting, it's going to veil over on top of this very soft, light textured area on either side that's going to have removed weight from the front. Because again, we style shag towards the front. We don't want like a big mop of hair, because she's going for an extremely heavy bang and some quite heavy layering, but we also don't want to make the hair look thin. So it's all practice that comes together when it comes to this kind of cut. And again, all of the shape is coming in with the razor, and then the perfecting and the detailing will come in with the scissors later on. Similarly with what I did on the sides there, I'm trying to pull a little bit of weight out of the crown here. So I am pulling up a big horseshoe section and then I'm going to separate it into three. I'm going to separate it into a left side, a right side, and a center. And then I'm going to lift it up and again, just double checking, making sure there's no random hairs kind of sticking out. Then I'm going to be cutting little weight decreasing windows into the ends of the hair. Right here is my right side, and I'm going to pull that up, and I don't even know if you guys get to see it. Again, so sorry about the quality of the video today. And these ones are going to be a little more intense and a little longer and deeper down in towards the scalp because the back gets really heavy for her, and we wanted to really get some lift around that crown area without cutting anything super, super short. So again, you're going to see little bits of the hair fall down. This is a very scary looking thing to do, by the way, for the first time. So when you do it, make sure you have good elevation so that you can't see where that weight comes out of, because the elevation also softens the whole look of this. If you just do this by pulling out at like a 0° or a 45° angle instead of a 90, you're going to get a much harsher look and you're going to be able to see where that weight has come out of the hair. Now we're pulling it forward and checking, and with her natural texture, I'm kind of scrunching, I'm grabbing pieces and making sure they're all kind of reaching the same area from front to back. And we can already tell this is a very cute cut around her face. It's going to air dry really nicely for her at home, but today we are going to blow dry so I can finish the cut. However, before we do that, we are going to do the bangs. So I like to cut a big bang for a shag, as I told you guys before. So I'm taking my comb and I'm sectioning out a pretty decent size where this is going to be what's kind of sitting in her face. Now, again, she has these kind of little face framing layers, little curtain bangs, and we're going to kind of keep along with what we have here. And I'm just kind of cutting the center out, and I'm trying to make sure that the center area, the area that kind of meets between her irises to the center of her forehead, that's going to be a significantly shorter section, and it's going to have a dramatic V shape up towards, I guess not a V, it's more of an A shape up towards that, and heavy layers down towards her cheeks. So I am lifting up here and I'm kind of softening out the ends of that there by adding in a little bit of layers into that front piece. And then I will be removing a little bit of the weight in there with my razor as well. Then I like to pull each of the sides and just soften the ends. And here we go with the little window cutting in the layers. Because she's going to have heavy bangs, we want to make sure that they're heavy but light at the same time. And I'm over directing over to either eye with these pieces so that I don't end up getting too heavy. It's like what I said earlier with the elevation. You need to make sure your elevation is on point for when you're cutting windows of lightening the weight into the hair. So now I'm taking the top layers, just softening them up a little bit so that when she styles her hair kind of forward, it doesn't have this really big disconnect. And that's why the top can be a little bit difficult, but it's also a lot of fun to play around with because with a shag, you can, shimmy stuff forward and down. You can throw it all kind of back. And there's a lot of heavy layering on the top of the hair and in the front, and it's a really fun way to style the hair with a lot of volume and a lot of texture. And when you're a little scared to have really solid layers, using this window cutting technique I find is probably the easiest way to get yourself comfortable with heavy layering in the front. Now again, every time that I do something with the hair, I like to kind of swish it around, see how the hair is going to move, see how it's going to flow. And it's following a flow that I really like, and it's showing me that this is going to sit really nicely on her. Those bangs are looking super cute. And now we're going to do like a little mini connection. So I'm bringing down everything that's in her face, and I'm just going to have a tiny bit of light razoring to make sure that whatever is fully framing her face is all connected together for when she pulls her hair up and away. She has some even, symmetrical, soft layering little pieces that can kind of hang down when she puts her hair in a high ponytail or a high soft bun. So I'm not going to show you the full blow dry, but I will show you how I blow dry the bangs for a shag. I am starting with putting in a lot of like a thickening spray. I'm using the one from Bumble and Bumble because it gives this soft, full plumpness to the hair. And it's great for one of those kind of dry textured styles. So I always like to use a round brush and kind of start by doing the traditional bangs blow dry where you blow dry down And then I'm gonna bring the airflow back up towards me and bring it up. And this is gonna give her hair volume, but it's also gonna create that soft outward parting that we like to see with a lot of shags and with not money piece, with curtain bangs. And then I like to over direct to the other side when I do this as well. And this creates a very soft flip back motion that the bangs like to naturally sit into. And this is why it's also important to texturize the ends of the bangs so that there's not a lot of weight there propelling the bangs forward and down. You want them to kind of flip up and back. Now I'm going to blow dry the rest of the hair. So now the hair's blow dried, you can see those choppy ass layers. Like, look at that. That's super choppy. That's not what we want to see. So that's why we also are going to use our scissors today and soften those areas up and fine detail everything so that it's perfect. So I just want to say, I'm sorry that I don't really have like a specialized formula for how to do these shags. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants as I do with every client. I try to customize every look for them. So I go bit by bit, and I'm just trying to take you through the process in my mind of how I do these services, because I want to be totally honest with you guys and transparent with, this is my process. I don't have a set step by step situation for how I do my shags. I just always start with the razor, and then I go in and soften everything with my scissors. So I am using my 7-inch dry cutting shears, and what I like to do is I like to elevate really high, and then I take my fingers into a hook kind of shape. I kind of bend them so that the hair like umbrellas out, and then that way it kind of opens up this space that I can deep chip into and soften up the weight into the ends there. I do this with every single layered cut. When you can see when I curve my fingers like that, the hair opens up, and I'm not going to be cutting chunks out. I'm going to be very softly taking the weight out. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be doing this around the whole head. I'm going to start with the back like I did. You take bigger sections, you fan it out more and more, and you start with a little bit of chipping in, and then you brush it again and do deeper chipping in into a bigger section like that. There we go. And that just softens everything up so much. And I guess if you can see it here, there's not much else that you need to see. So I'm going to kind of cut out the rest of the time, because I'm just doing this all over the head to make sure that everything is softened. There's no big jumps between her layers too. So I am making sure that there are no hairs just sticking out here and there, because razoring can do that. Razoring's not very precise, as I was mentioning earlier. This is kind of where you get that finessing of the haircut, and you turn it from, a haircut into a professional haircut. So while I've been cutting the rest of her hair, I've been telling her to take a look at her bangs, blink around, and let them sit there. And if they're too long, to let me know then, so that I can shorten them up rather than having her bangs be the last thing. So right now I'm pulling her bangs forward, and she did want the center of them to be lifted up a little bit more. So I'm doing that with my dry cutting shears. I'm just chipping into the ends of them right there to kind of lift up that center area. And then of course I like to pull in areas from the sides to make sure that there's still a blend from the shortest to the longest length. Now I'm double checking with her if she likes the length and the amount of layering she's got in there to wear as an everyday style. I pull it all back, and I notice, oops, there's a little bit of heaviness in that back right corner. So I'm just going to lift that part out again, make sure there's no weird disconnections, or maybe that's the way I blow dried it, but to me it looks a little disconnected. So I'm going to lift it up and make sure that I fix that area by softening into the ends and making sure that there's no hairs that just are not in the right length or shape that they need to be. Now here's what the hair looks like after I've softened those ends. It's a lot better. She's definitely got a shag now. So then after that, we've done a little bit of curling because she wanted a little bit of body and shape to her hair today. And I'm making sure that every time that I curl near the front, I'm being very quick by running the hair through the curler, not really actually giving it much of a curl, because the shorter the hair is, the more it's going to hold a curl. Then I like to give a little bit of texture spray, a little bit of hairspray, and shake it all around. I don't like to actually brush these out with a brush. I like to just use fingers when it comes to something you want to be kind of messy and undone, because otherwise a brush is going to almost put everything into formation. Beyonce, ayo. And I'm going to show you guys the after result, but I mean, I gotta say it. My client is the cutest client ever. She and her whole family, honestly, all of her sisters, they they're just the sweetest clients ever, and they're always like singing my praises in the chair. They're like the sweetest girls ever. I love clients like this. Like when they fully let you know in the chair how much they love their hair. There's nothing that makes a hairdresser feel better than someone who like very much tells you how much they love their hair. So if you're a client of a hairdresser and you like your hair, like let them know. Like they're not going to feel awkward about it. They're going to be so happy that they made you happy with your hair. And like I look at how full and thick her hair still looks. Like it almost looks thicker having layers to it than it does without layers. And here is me taking my after videos from the sides. What I really like about this shag is that it still leaves the hair really thick, still with a lot of layers you can play around with, a heavy bang, but it's not like it's definitely a starter shag. It's not the most intense version of a shag that anyone's ever seen, that's for sure. But it's great for anybody who's going from that safety zone of having full one length hair to doing something more textured and more fun. She has these really, really fun bangs that are very long so that she can wear the center in the middle, or she can still part the center a little bit to her eyebrows so that she has those curtain bangs when she wants them, or full bangs when she wants them. They're very versatile, and that's what we really love about them. Look at how happy she is. I just love her. She's got the cutest face ever, and it's totally perfect for this shag look. I'm so happy she sat in my chair today and said we're doing this, because I mean, this is one of my favorite cuts to do. Anyways, tell me what you guys think. I'd love to hear your thoughts today on this haircut. And yeah, if you want to see any other haircut tutorials of mine, please let me know. Write down in the comments what you'd love to see. And yeah, hope you guys really enjoyed this. Thank you so much, guys. And we're finally at 43,000 subscribers. Oh my God, yay. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.